Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I have here a very, very special guest. Me and this young lady have been in contact for months now, planning to get together to tell her story. She's been featured on Larry Mazza's new show, The Life. Please welcome to Crime and Entertainment, Joie Miami. Joie, how are you?
I'm just great, and I'm so honored to be on your show. I really love your show, and I said, wow, this is a great opportunity because he's such a nice guy, and I love you because you're so family orientated. I really do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And the same to you as well. You're a tough lady, and often when we talk about organized crime and the mob, you don't hear too many stories about the women, maybe
Right.
here and there, but a lot of times they're overlooked by the men that kind of make the headlines. But you're a tough lady, and I got to tell you, your story is quite remarkable, and we're going to get into that here today on Crime and Entertainment. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so when we have our guests on for the first time, because hopefully we like for everybody to come back at some point. But for the first time, we kind of like to start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about like where you grew up and a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, I grew up in New York City. I was born actually in Manhattan, New York City Hospital.
Okay.
And I came from a pretty rough childhood, very bad childhood, actually. My father was very abusive, very good looking man, and my mother was average looking, and they had 3 other children except, and myself. There was 4 of us. And again, my father was very abusive towards all of us. And I was the oldest, so I basically took all the lickings for all of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens sometimes. The oldest kind of takes the brunt and to protect the younger siblings. Now, you were telling off camera a story that I felt kind of needed to be told to the general public. You had an incident happen. You said you were what, 14 at the time?
Yes, I was 14.
Kind of give our audience a little bit of that insight, what you told me, because it was really what you did it showed a lot of courage at such a young age. And I feel it's important to lay the context of your character and what you're made of.
Thank you. Well, I had 3 other siblings with myself, and I was the oldest. I had a brother and 2 other sisters. And one night my mother said, I'm going to go out with your father for a while. We're going to go to a neighborhood bar, and we're going to have a few drinks. They both drank. So especially my dad. Mm-hmm. So they went to this bar, and all of a sudden they had a fight at the bar. And my father told my mother, just get the F out of here. Just leave. She goes, what do you mean just leave? We live in a bad neighborhood. I have to walk home? He said, yeah, get the hell out of here. So she started walking home, and she told me, she said, I asked this guy on the way home if he could just watch me go down the road so I was, I'd be safe. And when she got to the house, she was a little, tipsy, and I opened the door for her, and she goes, go upstairs. So we went upstairs, and my siblings were sleeping. The young one was sleeping in one room and the other 2 in the other room. And I turned around and I said, what's the matter with you? She goes, your father did this and that. And she was crying. Then about an hour later, he comes home with another drunken guy and starts banging on the door and saying, where's those effing bitches? Like talking about me and my sister and my mother. And he started fighting with her. And when she opened the door, the screen door, he grabbed her by the hair and started beating her. And so I heard her screaming, and I said, Mom, are you okay? She goes, throw me down a knife. I said, a knife? What do you want a knife for? So she, just throw it down. So I threw a steak knife down there. Down the stairs it went. And she got the knife and she stabbed him. And there was blood all over the place. He was like screaming, saying, this effing bitch stabbed me, screaming. So I said to her, I said, listen, go upstairs. The cops, I could hear the sirens already. I said, go upstairs. The neighbors called the police. Go upstairs. She goes, what do you mean go upstairs? I said, go upstairs. I'll handle this. So I grabbed a knife. I put my fingerprints on it, and I had the blood coming down my arm. And I said, just go. I'll take care of this. But she was, she was facing attempted murder.
Right.
It would have taken my siblings and put them in a home, and took me too, for that matter. So that's what happened. And the sirens came, they handcuffed me, they put me in the back seat, and I told them I did it. I did it. My father came in trying to, he was drunk, and I stabbed him. And so they said, okay, you're under arrest. They took me to juvenile detention center, and I had to stay there for a while till I covered for my mom. Yeah.
Now, did they drop charges on that? Because I mean, I would think that would kind of have to be considered self-defense, but.
Well, eventually they did. They said that because prior to that, my mother tried to put him in the VA hospital because he was an alcoholic, and they said they had no room for him. So the government said, listen, it's our mistake for not taking him in the hospital, and we need to let this guy go, let him go, get off the hook, put him in a hospital somewhere when he gets cleared up, and let this girl be released. So after a month, I was released, but it's just a trauma involved, that when you're going through that at a young age, and you're so full of love for your parent, and you say, I don't want nothing to happen to my mother, and then to think that I had to deal with all that, it's disgusting,
And there's something to be said about somebody that can process everything that you just told me in a state of panic like you had to be in after what happened. Because a lot of times, if people haven't ever been in a situation like that, everybody can sit around and say, I know what I would do. But you don't really know what you would do until you're in it, because shit just goes haywire. Your head starts spinning. And for you to be able to have the wherewithal to say, hey, mom, go upstairs, I'll handle this, knowing you as a juvenile at that time would probably be able to escape that, as opposed to it being her and it being a husband-wife thing where she would have probably maybe had to stand trial for it at some point. That shows a lot about, mentally where you were at the time and how grown up you were past your years, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love my family. And in fact, one time my dad was drinking, and he beat me up so bad that it was New Year's Eve, actually. And I was still when I got out, I was almost 15 at the time. And he was always abusive towards me, always, and that's another story for another time. But when I went out that New Year's Eve, I told my mother, I said, my friends are waiting for me. I wanted to go out. She goes, wait till your father goes to sleep and then go out. Well, when I went out, before I went out, he had a big fight with me, and he beat me up pretty bad. So I went out, and I went to my friend's house, and I tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
When the police went to my mother and father's house to take them to the hospital with me because I was underage, they were too drunk to take care of me. And they said, we have to stitch her up, otherwise she's going to die. We got to take care of her now. We can't wait for her parents. Her parents are too drunk to even go to the hospital. So, I've been through so much stuff, and that's what made me so hard in life. And a lot of people always tell me, they say, how could you be so cold-hearted sometimes? I go, because I really don't give a damn. I have a heart of ice. The only ones I love is my family and my close friends. But the rest of those people, to me, I don't care. If I have to protect my family, I'll do it. Just like anybody else would. I'm sure you would as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the things you go through as a child kind of shape you and how you handle things as an adult. And later on you have a kid, and then later on you meet a guy by the name of Gino Talarico. Now tell us a little bit about that, because that's kind of where your entrance into the life, so to speak, to take a page out of Larry Mazza's show there, The Life, began. So tell us a little bit about that, like how you guys met and your introduction into that.
Well, when I met Gino, I was working as a waitress. I was very young. I was working as a waitress, and he came in with 3 other guys. He used to come in every day. And then finally he said to one of the waitresses, he said, send the blonde over. I want her to wait on us. So I came over there and I waited on him. He was very kind of like, very sophisticated. He was very quiet. His other friends were a little loud, and they were from Chicago, and they were visiting him. And then one day we just sat down at the table when he came in by himself, and he said to me, so when are you going to let me take you out? I said, no, when are you going to take me out, like that? And he said, when are you off? I said, well, actually, I'm off on my birthday. So he says, okay, I'll pick you up at 8 and don't be late. So I gave him my mother's address where I was living, and he sent 24 roses. And he said to me, I'll pick you up at this time. My mother was like blown away. She goes, who is this guy? You know, excuse me. So he picked me up and we went to a restaurant where all the big celebrities hung out, Sinatra and all, Anthony Quinn, all of them. It was called Capra's. It was on Biscayne Boulevard. And we went to this real fancy restaurant, and I see this big cake coming towards me, you know, and they're singing happy birthday and all of this. And then he takes me home that night, and he hands me a little pouch, and I go, what is this? And he goes, that's for you for your birthday. He gave me a gold watch and a gold necklace with a cross. And he said to me, oh, and here's an envelope for you. There was $500. I mean, back in the 70s, $500 was a lot of money, you know?
Yeah.
So he says, buy yourself something and buy your daughter something. He said, listen, I have a plane. If you want, we could fly to New York or fly to wherever you want, and we'll have lunch tomorrow. I go, a plane? He says, yeah, I have my own plane. I have a Learjet, you know. He says, our company owns it. He says, and I'd like to take you wherever you want to go. I said, how about if we just stay in Miami and have dinner, or, you know? So he said, okay, because I was kind of naive at that time. You know, I was a young girl. So he said, okay. And then we started dating, and he came and got me an apartment. We lived together for a while. And then he said, hey, you remember that big house you like? After we were together for like a year. I said, yeah. He goes, it's your house. I bought you the house. I go, what? So I was like blown away. This was like everything new, you know, jewelry, minks, cars, everything. So I was like, wow. I was like, it was like a Cinderella story.
Right.
And then things turned, you know, as the years went by.
So when you first got involved with him, I don't mean to cut you up, but like, did you realize he was in the life, or what did you think he did? Or did you really just not care and not ask?
Well, to be honest with you, I personally didn't know what he did at the beginning, because he told me he was in the import and export business. And he kept that up for a while. And then after I saw all the men that were coming to my house and all the phone calls from Colombia and Panama and Noriega coming to the house to go to Disney World with him and the kids, I'm like, what's going on here? You know, so that's when I basically found out from Santo what was happening. You know?
Now by Santo, for our listeners that may not be as versed in the organized crime world as others, because we do cover other topics here, you're referring to Santo Trafficante, the quote unquote boss of it all down there in Florida.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was the boss. This was the only man that I knew in my way of thinking. Okay, you know how I respect you and I respect Larry Mazza, but this was a mobster that I respected so highly. I used to call him Pop because I had so much respect for him. Mm-hmm. He was such a family man. He loved his grandkids. He used to have dinner every night at 6 o'clock with his family in his living room and in dining room. And I was part of that at one time. You know, I would be there with them in those dinners. And he was the classiest man. I mean, it wasn't like you would hear loudmouths like screaming and pounding on the tables like, you know, Salvador Baston was a real macho guy, you know. But he was very laid back and quiet. And we'd had private talks, you know. And he just was such a wonderful person. He was very educated. He treated me like a daughter, actually. And I never forgot him. As long as I live, I'll always love him. And his wife and I became very good friends, and his family were wonderful people. Wonderful.
Oh. Now, when you kind of learn what Gino was up to, were you still comfortable kind of playing the wife role? At what point did you kind of, you know, want to step up and take part in the action? Because as we will learn here in your story, you're not really a backseat type of gal. You're going to step up and ditch your piece and be involved in the thick of things. What point did that happen?
Well, that happened, I would say, about a few years later, because I was extorting people. I would go into a bank and tell the president of the bank to sit down. I wanted to talk business with her, and she would say, what are you talking about? I say, I need you to cash these checks here I got. And she would say to me, I can't do that. That's illegal. I go, how much is your mortgage a month? She goes, what do you want to know how much my mortgage is? Because I says, I want to know. She said, well, and not that it's any of your business, but it's like $800 and something a month. I said, well, here's 3 months. I want those checks cashed today. And by the way, lady, I know where your mother walks her dog every day at 8 o'clock near the church that we attend. So either these checks are going to be signed or we're going to have an effing problem. Okay. So she became a friend of mine. She was happy. She was making money. And I told her, don't estimate me, don't underestimate me, because I want my checks cashed right now. So she says, don't worry, we got it covered. We got it covered. That's when I handed her $3,000 and I told her, this is for you and keep it coming every month and I'll take care of you. And your mother won't be touched. Okay. She said, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's how that was. Okay. Along with other things I used to do. So I never feared anything in life. The only thing I ever feared was my children being hurt. You know, anything
Right.
that anything else, I don't give a damn. I go out there, I take a bullet for Larry in a heartbeat. He's a good friend of mine. When you have people that you care about, you got to show them that you care. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not easy out there. It's not.
No, I believe that. Loyalty, especially in today's time, is a rarity.
It is
100%. So many people, be it in, that type of life or in the business world or in the workplace, so many people will stab you in the back quicker than you can, say thank you to somebody. They're already putting a knife in your back. And like I said, it's not just people want to say, well, that's the mob. That's not the mob. That's everywhere, man. I've seen it in corporate America. I've seen it in regular jobs. I've seen it in, high school. I mean, it doesn't matter. That's almost the way it is. Disloyalty is almost the new normal. And that's horrible that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's true. And as a matter of fact, like I encourage, like I used to, when one of my ex-husbands was in prison and, he was a jewel thief, okay? I used to go and visit him every week. And I would see the most beautiful women online. I'd say, God, if a man wants to find a woman, they could come here and find a beautiful woman. They'd be waiting for these thugs that are in there. And I used to tell them when I went on the Sally show years ago, I told them, you don't need these guys to complete your life. You need a man for romance. You need a man for love. You need a man to have children. You don't need a man to support you. Go out there and get a job. Go out there and find something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was so eager to get involved in that mafia. I said, I want a part of that action. I'm tired of being a runner for them and doing all the dirty work and nobody's giving me the credit. Bullshit. I want the credit for what the hell I'm doing. Okay.
Right.
And that's what happened. That's what happened.
Now, did he ultimately wind up passing away?
Gino passed away, but before he died, there was another scenario where he hadn't seen his son in over 13 years. And then all of a sudden he shows up when he's dying on his deathbed. After my daughter took care of him in the hospital and all, that's when his son came down and claimed that he wanted everything. That's when they wiped me out completely and took a lot of my money, a lot of my furnishings, a lot of everything from my daughter even. And it got to the point where I said, I'll get my revenge. And I did. So wow. I just, I did what I had to do.
Yeah. So at what point did you meet Santo Trafficante?
I met Santo at a wake, actually. One of the bosses from Panama, his Hyman Larner, I'm sure you've heard of. Hyman Larner worked with Noriega. They had a beautiful home in and a hotel, the Bombito Hotel. And I met him in a wake. So we started talking, and a lot of the men were talking about Joey. And they were like, who's Joey? Is she a guy or what? And I said, no, that's Joey over there. By this time, everybody knew who I was, and they knew that I was, doing my share and pulling my rope, so to speak. And the old man, after I got to know Santo, Hyman Larner, we were at a meeting one day, and he says, Gene says, well, I'll take care of that thing with Santo. And Hyman Larner said, no, let Joey handle that. She knows Santo. let her deal with what we're dealing with here. That was where they wanted me to take his tribute to the hospital, which I did years ago. You know, you could tape money around your waist, you know, so nobody recognized. Nowadays, you can't do that shit,
Right.
you know. So I taped a lot of money, and I went to Tampa. I flew to Tampa, and I said, Santo, I said, Pop, I'm on my way. I'll be there on the next plane. So Hyman Lerner gave me the order, the command to do what I did, you know. So I got on the plane and I took the money to Santo, and then he told his wife, you know, Joey's coming here with the money, so I'm gonna ask you to leave the room for a few minutes. So she left, and I untaped my waist, and I had all his money, and he handed me 5,000. He said, here, this is for you to go cabaret with my family, take them out for dinner, you know, do whatever. Cabaret means, you know, entertain them.
Right.
So so that's what I did. And from that day on, him and I became friends. Again, he was like a father to me, and I admired him more than anybody I've ever known. Yeah.
Wow. Now, did they put you to work? Were you running things there in Florida at this time?
At the time, I was being mostly his liaison. Like, he'd ask me, we'd have meetings when I would bring him his tribute, and he'd say, who's coming in town? Who's leaving? What money are they spending? And that's when I was building what they call these little coffins in our garage. We would make these little coffins, like 2x4s, and then wood. They were real small. We would pack $5,000 bags of silver dollars for the casinos that were going to Panama. And we'd have, you know, I call it pharmaceutical. We had pharmaceutical in there. We had all kinds of stuff that they wanted over there in Panama. So that would be shipped to Panama. Sometimes we would have one time a guy by the name of Jimmy Russell came into town. He killed 2 police officers in Panama, and Hyman Lerner paid for him to get out of there. And he had a mink rug. And I said, oh, I love that rug. And when I looked inside of it, it was a machine gun, a big machine gun from Panama with United States markings on it. So that came in. Gino goes, just put it in the garage, just put it up in the attic, whatever. And I said, well, all I was interested in was the rug, but I already knew what was going on. Where's all these little coffins going to, you know, these boxes with all this money and shit. So he was sending them out, and you know, I had to load the planes. I had to get somebody to help me load the plane. And we had a Cessna, and we had a Learjet at the executive airport. So that's where all that went down.
Wow. So that's a lot of responsibility there. I mean, and you're dealing with guys from back in Chicago as well at this time?
Yeah, the guys in Chicago. So, there was one guy that came down from Chicago, and my husband, well, Gino, was out of town at the time. So I was running the whole show there. And his wife said to me, tell him that Saul's here. The pilot was calling me on the phone, and he says, tell him Saul's here. Tell him Saul's here. I'm like, what do they care about Saul? I'm running this. And I picked up an ashtray, a lead crystal ashtray, and I threw it at her. I said, now shut the F up. Let me do this. Get out of here running this shit. You know, you got these women that don't know anything about the business. They just want to feel like they're doing something to help their husbands. And in the meantime, the husbands are on my side saying, let her go. She's running this, you know, shut up. But I always took it upon myself, because Gino and I were pretty close. We got along great. He raised my daughter. He gave her the best life. Bought me a beautiful home. I had a Cadillac. I had everything. I had jewels, minks, you name it, I had it. That's why I think people always ask me, you know, they say to me, boy, you know, your mother is kind of, you know, extravagant, or she's kind of stuck up. It's not that I'm stuck up. I've always had men around me that have always catered to me, you know, in a way. I loved it because my own father never catered to me, you know. So I always, even one of my husbands, when I got married, his mother used to say, you know, put out the good china and everything. I said, I'm just a normal person, you know, but they think because you have that lifestyle, you got to keep on top of things. And that's why my husband wound up in prison. He thought he had to stay on top of things. And I told him, I don't want that life anymore. I just want a normal life. But he wasn't like that. He wanted more action. So that's what happened. But crime doesn't pay.
No.
people always say crime pays, but it doesn't. It'll pay for a while, but you'll either wind up dead or broke or all of them.
Yeah, or in jail. I mean, crime pays, but you wind up paying later on. It comes with a price. It pays, but it comes with a price at the end.
It does, and it's not that, you got to understand, being a woman, I was alone. I had a daughter to raise. And the way they kind of just kicked me to the curb, so to speak, when Gino died, I was like to the end of my rope. I was like, ready to scream. And you would think that they would be there to help you, but it's an embarrassment for the mafia to say, God, we never helped her, And it's true, but that's okay, because I picked up myself. I did what I have to do to get, not revenge, but just to prove a goddamn point, that I wasn't going to just sit back and let you make me look like a fool, because what you took from me, I took double from you. Okay. Right. And that's where that all came out, where they said, oh God, this and that is missing. I had the keys and the access to everything. I had Noriega's keys. I had Hyman Larner's keys. I had everybody's keys to what they owned. Okay. So that's why I said, when you scorn a woman, or you kick her to the curb and she has a cub to take care of, believe me, it's not easy. Yeah. And so therefore, I don't feel like I've done anything that another person would have not done. Okay. Right. That's just the way I feel.
And we're going to get into what you've done, but for some of our listeners that are a little bit well versed in the organized crime facet of what we mentioned, you dealt with guys like Joey Aupa, or Joey Doves, as some people might know him, who was a major guy out in the Chicago outfit, and you were liaison to a lot of people out there in Chicago. Tell us some of the names of some of the people that you did have to deal with out there.
Well, I dealt with Frank Morocco was with the FBI. That came later with the governor, senator, all that came later. I worked with Salvador Baston. I worked with Joey DeVita. I'm sorry. I worked with Tommy Russo. I worked with Gene Talarico. He was also from Chicago. There was a lot of other guys. Hyman Larner I worked with. He was from Panama, but he also lived in Chicago. So basically, it was just a small crowd of people that I ran with. But again, Santo Trafficante, he was the top dog. He was always the top dog around everywhere.
Well, Joey and a lot of those guys, they were heavily involved with the skim, with the casinos out in Las Vegas, with Tony Spilatro and a couple of those other guys. Did you ever have any dealings with anything that was involved in Las Vegas, or you were strictly kind of handling Miami stuff?
Well, I was kind of strictly in Miami, although I know that they had property in the Stardust Hotel. Eddie Vogel owned a lot of that. He was a hot shot out there in the 50s before I was born. And I know that we had casinos all over the Costa lines. We had the Boheme, we had the Costa lines, we had the Angelina Laura, and those were our ships that we had that were all Italian ships, actually, that had all our monopoly on there, and Bally Enterprise. So the Bally machines were owned by the Chicago mob. Midway was owned by Chicago mob. Believe it or not, there's a lot of places that the mob were involved with, hospitals, all kinds of places. In fact, we had some of our meetings in hospitals. Yeah.
Oh, I believe.
We put a guy that was in the mafia in a bed and say, oh, he's a patient. He wasn't a patient. He was in there, a deal.
Now, what they can't bug hospitals, right? Hospitals, doctors' offices, things like that. That's stuff the places the feds can't bug.
Yeah, right. They can't go in there. But I mean, I had a federal agent that was outside the hospital one time when I went to meet with somebody. This is how that happened. I was working for the FBI years later. And what happened was they told me to go find this guy. They said, we can't get a hold of him. Well, I got the guy in 10 minutes, and he met me at the hotel, and he patted me down to see if I was wired, which I wasn't. And they gave me a device to use in a handbag, and I used that. But again, a lot of those guys, they looked at me like I was one of them. So they trusted me, and I trusted them with my heart because I grew up with them. You know, I basically was a young girl, and I'd have guys, 10 guys coming to my door every morning for coffee and sit in the back room and smoke all day and drink coffee, you know? So I was used to that. I have guys that would come into my house, put their guns on the table and just go about their business. So everything was really normal towards me. I mean, even when you see the movie, the Goodfellas, I kind of think that was the closest to my lifestyle. When she said, you know, it was all normal. That's how it was with us. Even my daughter. I mean, if you talk to my daughter, she was, you know, the same way. I mean, she knew all the ropes. She knew how to shut her mouth. She knew how to listen. And years ago, it was a different lifestyle, though. I think in my time, the guys were more quiet. You know, it wasn't a lot of loud mouths. Now
Right.
you got a lot of flash, and people pretend everybody's in the mob. You
Yeah.
talk to everybody I talk to. Oh, I'm in the mob. Oh, I had a friend in the mob. You know this guy? You know. It's not like that, you know, you don't talk about those things. And if I did do something wrong, I wouldn't blast it out and say, yeah, I killed somebody. You know, you don't do those kind of things.
Absolutely. It's a different time altogether. And like you said, the whole mob, when you go back to the origins of it, it was a thing. Its foundation was secrecy,
Yes.
you know, secret society. You would have never caught guys like Carlo Gambino on the cover of Time magazine, or Santo Trafficante for that matter, on Time magazine. And as things progress, you know, guys like Gotti and stuff like that, they changed the game, and that's the natural order of life. Things change. You know, they're not going to stay the same always, but the heyday in the mob was definitely back in those days where people operated in secret. You can get a lot more done when nobody knows your name, when you're not on the page of the paper every single day when you wake up, and everybody knows what you do.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I love fashion. My dream is to go to a runway one day, watch people, you know, model clothes. But I think John Gotti was a great dresser. The real Dapper Dan. Now, even my friend Larry dresses really good. Okay.
Yes.
So I admire people that dress up like that, but on the other flip side of that, I like guys that look like thugs, you know. So you have both sides, you know, and like I always used to tell people, my husband was a thug on the inside or outside and a good guy on the inside, you know. So you just have to have a certain way about yourself. And I think actually when you get older, you kind of, you know, you say to yourself, God, I can't believe I did this and I did that. You know, everybody does that.
Oh, yeah.
I think the older I get, the more mature I get, and the more I respect people more. You know?
No, I mean, you hit it on the head. Guys like John and Larry and Joey Merlino down there in Philly, those guys just had swagger. And that's something that, you know, it wasn't a word back then. Obviously, it's a word that's widely known now. But you can take 2 or 3 people and put them in the same suit, but it's got to be something about their personality that can make it work. You know, the way they wear it. There's something said about the way somebody can wear something. I've seen Larry in pictures where you can take those same suits and put them on 3 or 4 other guys, and they're just not going to look that same way. You know, it's the whole thing. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you talk. I was always one in high school that every now and again I would wear a suit to school. I like doing that. And people were like, why are you wearing that? I'm just like, I don't know. Why are you not wearing it? You know, and being fashionable and being different was always something I was into. I would do something just because it was different. You know, I didn't want to fit in.
I think what attracted me to you is that you were so thug. I liked it. That's a compliment.
Well, thank you.
Now, Larry Mazza, I will tell you, I admire him very much. Okay, he's helped me a great deal with his friendship, and what makes him special to me is that he's very compassionate. Okay. I like people that have a good heart. He has a great heart. Him and his wife are very compassionate people. And again, I know a few, like even Santo, he was very compassionate, very, very caring. He never put on the airs, you know, and flaunted, you know. And these are people that have good feelings for other people, you know. It's just that I don't like people that are too flashy because to me, they're fake, you know.
Right. My wife,
Yeah.
you know, there was a show, and I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it was Sons of Anarchy. It was based around a motorcycle gang. It was real popular a few years ago. It ran for like 6 seasons. And the main character was this kid named Jax. Now, if you've been on my social media for quite a while, my son is named Jax. We actually named him from that television show. And my wife said one thing that she found attractive about that individual was he was in this biker gang, you know, so he was a tough guy, but at the same time, he had a heart and he cared and he wanted to do right. But he also was in this life that required him to do things that maybe weren't the best, you know. So it's that line that you have where somebody's not all the way bad, but they're not all the way good. And they can ride that line in the middle to where if they need to be that person, they can, but at the same time, they try to do the right thing. And there's a likable factor to a lot of those people.
Right. It's just like myself, you know, I grew up really hard, you know, so I even had a boss one time tell me, you know, Joey, you have a chip on your shoulder, right? I said, yes, I do. He goes, why? I go, because I've been through a lot in life. And I when people hurt me or hurt my family, I don't like it, you know? And I think that when I was younger, I was like any other person that would just take risks, you know. I mean,
Right.
I was carrying, you know, booze and drugs and everything in the back of a truck. And I could have got busted at any time. And I didn't care because I had enough backup to say, hey, we'll get her out. Don't worry about it. But now, if I thought of that nowadays, I mean, if Santo was alive, people always ask me, if Santo was still alive, would you still be in the game? Absolutely. Okay. Because I do anything for him. All right. But again, he came from a good family. His wife was wonderful. When I saw the movie Donnie Brasco, I was like, are you for real? That's nothing like him. But again, they blow everything out. It's a movie, you know.
Hollywood puts their spin on things for sure.
But I know just by doing a show with you, I'm very honored to be on your show because I feel that you really let people get their emotions out as well as telling their story. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You know, I feel like it's my job to let that person tell their story. And lots of times I've interviewed some guys who's had their story told in movies that they didn't even have a part of. We interviewed a guy named Johnny Curry a while back who was a major drug dealer in Detroit, self-admitted. And his character was portrayed in the movie White Boy Rick, that starred Matthew McConaughey and some other guys. And he said, you know, he wasn't contacted about, you know, what happened here. And even Scott Bernstein, who we've also had on the show, was at one time, like, you know, providing information to him, and they weren't taking his advice. Like they didn't really care how it really went down. Hollywood puts their spin on things, and it's whatever they think is going to make the movie better, not necessarily the truth.
Right. Well, I think it's better you tell the truth. I mean, they are going to fabricate some things, you know,
right.
Like the time my daughter took my car in the middle of the night and it blew up, you know, that was meant for me. And thank God she survived it. You know, I think it was a bomb in there. The whole Cadillac blew up. And I told her, Nikki, where's my car? She goes, what are you talking about? It's gone. I go, what do you mean it's gone? She goes, Mom, your car is effing gone. Okay. Because I couldn't get it through my head that the car blew up.
Wait a minute now. Wait. Where did she take it? I mean, she was driving it and it happened, or what happened?
Here's the thing. I was asleep. Okay. She said she wanted to go to her boyfriend's house, which is the father of her daughter now. And I said, okay. I said, I'm going back to bed. She snuck out of the house the middle of the night, took my car, and was driving over to her boyfriend's house, and the goddamn car blew up. I go, what the hell is going on? Where's my car? I mean, all I really cared at this point was, where the hell is my car? And she told me, I took the car in the middle of the night. I ran out of the car. I left the car and everything there. It blew up. I'm like, Nikki, where is mommy's car? Mom, it effing flew. I mean, I was in shock, you know? So she
Wow.
said to me, she goes, what are we going to do? I said, well, where's the car now? She goes, it's in the middle of the street, blowed up. I said, okay, that was the end of it.
Well, I
So
guess
obviously the car had to have been meant for me because she didn't even have a license at the time.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Let's circle back here because I know you said, you had to do what you had to do, and we'll get into that piece. But like, at what point did you realize that you were kind of, because I've heard this from a lot of guys that's been in the life. They say, it's preached that we're going to take care of you when things happen. And if you go to jail, we'll take care of your family and you won't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the sales pitch, I guess, if you will. But then when it happens and when you need that, it's not really available as the way they make it seem to be. Now, what point did you realize that, hey, they're not going to take care of me. I got to do me. I got to take care of me.
Right. Well, here's the thing. After Gino got sick with cancer, his son came down after my daughter spent various days in the hospital with him. He came down with Gino's bodyguard, which was Vic. And he told him, he said, listen, your son's going to come down and we're going to handle all this. That's when we went to the lawyer. And I said to him, okay, I'm willing to give your son half of this and half of that. And I'll take this and I'll give him this. I was willing to share everything. Okay. And then he turns around and looks at me, and I'm in there with my daughter in the lawyer's office. And he goes, what about my son? He was like in a trance, I said, what about your son? What about your daughter who you raised for all these years, 14 years of our lives? And then he just pops out of nowhere and wants all this stuff from you. What is this? So I got pissed off. I walked out of the office, and he said to me, please, he was grabbing me like this, please, I don't want this to, I pushed him away. I spit in his face. I told him, you're a bastard. Get away from me. So I walked down the stairs. He was following me down the stairs. He was falling down the stairs. His son was screaming. I had a box of his jewelry in the back of my Cadillac. Took the jewelry and I put everything in there. His son was banging on the door to get the jewelry from me that belonged to his father. And I clicked the door and I went like this. Here's your jewelry. I took his jewelry. I took everything and left. Then when I got back to my house, they had cleaned the whole house out. They took money. I had $5,000 stashed. They took all my belongings in the warehouse that I had. I had all kinds of stuff. They cleared me out. I said, oh, this is the way you want to play this game. So I called Panama and I told them, listen, I need money. I'm alone here with my daughter, They hung up the phone. Then I called somebody else. Hey, I need money down here. I have nothing. I spent 14 years of my life with you people. What are you going to do for me? I mean, help me out here because everybody that's in the mafia, they usually give the family a year or two. They'll take care of them with all the money the husband used to get. They didn't give me shit. Okay. So to make a long story short, I said, Nikki, what are we going to do? I don't know what to do. I have like a few $1,000s to my name. What are we going to do? I was like really panicking. I had some jewelry. I sold some jewelry and I told her, that's not going to be enough. We need to get a place. We need to get this. We need to get that, food, whatever. So she says, I don't know what to tell you, Mom. Whatever you do, I'm behind you 100%. I said, I'm going to call the FBI. I called the FBI. I said, hi, this is Mr. So-and-so. I know this, and this. Get over here. They were at my house in 15 minutes. They said, listen. They said, listen, we know who you are. We have you on surveillance. Write down on this piece of paper how much money you're going to need for all your bills and whatever else you need. And I told them, I need this much right here. And I need a credit card for Lord & Taylor. I need Louis Vuitton luggage. I need a mink coat to travel to Chicago. Whatever you need. Whatever you need, we'll give you. And they did.
Wow.
So, I've lived a good life. I lived a good life with the FBI. In fact, I had men around me all the time. Of course, they worked for the United States Senator and all those big shots over in Chicago. Frank Morocco handled the deal for the FBI. I had guys that work with me that I gave them nicknames. I used to call one guy Senator. I had another guy, I used to call him Polo. I had different nicknames for all my FBI guys, but they treated me better than the mafia did. I'll be honest with you. And they helped me get through a lot of shit.
So now what did they wire you up in some cases? What did they want you to just kind of keep going business as usual?
Yeah, I kept doing business as usual for a while. I went on some surveillances for them. They did let me go on a few missions for them with Robert Levinson, who I'm sure you heard of him. He was in the newspaper all the time. He was an FBI agent who worked on, I believe he worked for the CIA after he left the FBI, and he got captured in Iran. And they held him there till he died, actually. But he worked with me. We traveled to Chicago. I remember one time he told me, Joey, you're doing a great job. I need you to help me with something. And I said to him, I said, what do you want? You know, what do you want me to do here? We're in Chicago now. He says, I want to go to a baseball game. And I'm saying to myself, who the hell does this guy know here in my turf that wants to go to a baseball game at Wrigley Stadium? Okay. So he says, yeah, I got the tickets. I go, okay, let me go get the car. He goes, no, forget the car. He says, let's take the L. So I said to him, I said, okay, Bob, I'll be right down. He goes, where are you going? I go, give me about a half hour. I got to take care of something. So I get in a cab in the back door and I tell him, take me to this place. It's in some rough neighborhood. And he goes, lady, are you sure you want to go? Yeah, I want to go here. Take me down here. I go in there, I knock on the door. I tell the person, give me a piece. He goes, how much you want? I go, give me a 38. I tell him. He says, okay. I take the 38 and I wrap it around my ankle, you know, because I'm saying this FBI, he could be on the take too and have me killed, you know.
Absolutely.
So I tape the gun around my ankle and we go to the L. And I tell him, I say, okay, where are we going? He goes, well, we're going to take the L. You know, I'm saying, oh shit, this guy's going to have me jumped off right here. So I'm a little nervous, you know, I'm precautious. I get on the L with him. And then we're sitting down on the subway and he goes, what are you so nervous about, Joey? And he opens up his coat and he goes, I got this here. He had his gun, you know. I go, I'm not nervous. I got this. I lift up my leg and I said, I got this. He goes, I'm a federal agent. I said, I don't give a F who you are, Bob. I says, if I go down, you're following me, buddy. And he just looked at me like I was out of my mind, which I probably did act out of my mind. And I said, there's no way I'm dying in a L here. I said, he goes, are you really serious? I said, yes, I'm dead serious. So he said, listen, relax. I'm not like that. He said, I would never do that to you. I said, okay. So we went to the Wrigley Stadium. We watched the baseball game and that was the end of that. I was fine. Yeah, I'm still here.
But I mean, that showed your street smarts in that, because just because you're working with somebody that claims to be with law enforcement, that we all know that those guys are on the take and they have their hand out just as much as any street guy would, for sure, if not more so.
Just when they had just like when they had the river cops, you know, I knew the guys that were involved with that cocaine deal over in the river. What was his name? Willie Falcone.
Those guys, Sal Magluta and Willie Falcone.
Yeah, I knew those guys. You know, in fact, a lot of times, like I was telling Larry, I said, you know, a lot of times I'm sitting in the FBI building one day and some guy comes over to me and he goes, God damn it, I can't find this guy. I go, what guy are you looking for? He goes, this guy here. I write down on a piece of paper and I hand it to him and I say, that guy will be there at 8 o'clock. He goes, get out of here, Joey. I go, I'm serious. He'll be there at 8 o'clock. Picked the guy up, apprehended him, went to prison. Yeah. Wow. I knew everybody in Miami. I knew I knew Alberto San Pedro. His wife was my best friend. And she was screwing around on her husband, who was a big drug dealer, with my bodyguard. And I used to tell him, this guy's going to kill you, man. What are you doing? He goes, I really like that chick, man. I go, you're crazy. So, you know, there's so much wild stuff in Miami. I mean, everybody's trying to make a buck, you know. And it's really crazy because I live in a different area now, but when I lived in Miami, it was like everybody was hustling everybody,
Oh
it's
man,
just a hustle.
Miami was
Really
crazy.
hustle.
Matter of fact, our episode this week, I'm not sure when this will air with yourself, but this week we just released an episode with Dave Accavetti, who spent a lot of time down there in Miami. And I mean, man, the cocaine cowboy era down there, the cocaine wars with Griselda Blanco and those, I mean, that was just,
Yeah.
it was the Wild West down there for a long time
Well,
in
I'll tell
Miami.
you, if he knew anybody, he knew Alberto San Pedro. He was the big kingpin down here, okay? And his son was a big kingpin too, and his wife, his first wife. She was they were all involved in drugs. The mother went to prison. The son got her out with a lot of money. Alberto San Pedro, he was well respected in Miami. He had a lot of family, a lot of people behind him. They worshiped him because he gave a lot of money to a lot of charities. He gave a lot of money to a lot of Saint Lazaro. So, they had a lot of connections because they helped the poor. Just like,
Right.
One of my daughter's heroes is, what's his name? The guy from Colombia. She thinks he's great. I mean,
Escobar?
Yeah, she just was like, wow, I love that guy. And I used to tell her, why so much? She goes, because he helped everybody. He always helped the poor. I mean, the whole town loved him because he always gave to the poor,
Yeah, they did. I mean, he built soccer stadiums over there. I mean, he done a ton of stuff, and that was to have those people to have his back. I mean, for by and large, though, they helped him stay under the hidden when a lot of people were looking for him. And Gotti was a lot of the same way. I mean, people love Gotti, to death in New York. I mean, he would put on those cookouts and he would help out and he would do the fireworks show, even though they would fine him for it. And I mean, he did not care. And I'm sure you've seen the footage. Like when they finally locked him up, I mean, they rioted outside the courthouse. They turned cars over. I mean, that's how beloved these people were because, did they do the stuff that they did? Yeah, they were in the life. That's part of it. But and also they did do other good things.
Yes.
I'm not saying that, relinquished all the bad that they did, but they had a lot of love from a lot of people, especially in the community. And one of the things that's overlooked is a lot of times they kept drugs out of their communities too, as well. Yeah. That's what a lot of people say is if you had the older style mob regime back in the day, now you wouldn't have all the fentanyl overdose and shit with people dying. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I mean, I'm not condoning drug use by any means, but you got people out here nowadays that is trying drugs for the first time and it's laced with fentanyl and they're dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrible.
Well, like you said, they had a heart. You're right in that respect. And I'll tell you, it's like my daughter and I, we help a lot of poor people. We work with the Autistic Foundation. We help a lot of charities too. I help St. Jude's Hospital. I give money. So, when you have money of your own and you feel less fortunate, just dig in your pocket a little and help somebody that needs it. We always help people. That's why we're blessed, because God looks out for us, because we helped a lot of people. And again, like when I was with Gino, it was like anything I wanted, it was hard to get from him. Where all the other guys were giving their wives, hey, give her 5,000, give her this, give her that. I'm like, what is this? They're all skimming off of my old man's top and nobody knows about it. That's why they were making money in their town and saving their money while they were coming to Miami and grabbing our shit, So how good was that?
Tell us a little bit. You've got a podcast coming out called Joie Miami.
Yeah.
And you shared the trailer this week. I think the trailer dropped. Tell us a little bit about that. Where, when it's going to be released, how many episodes, if you're going to do one a week, where people can find it. Kind of tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure after this episode, they're going to be intrigued.
Right. Well, I believe it's going to be 8 episodes. And my agent, she basically knows all the information on that. And It was on, I think some of it was on, well, when they had the mob TV show that aired, and then they were going to make another podcast with my daughter and myself. She tells the story about my life. She tells the story about how I got involved. She tells the story about things that went sour, that my mother wasn't fear of anything. Basically, that's what happened. But my agent has all the information, and I'm sure she'll give it to you whenever you like. And we can go from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll put it out on our page as well when it drops, because I heard the trailer and I got to tell you, it's already got my interest. Now, am I correct?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's no problem at all. Am I correct in hearing you're kind of got a second book in the works?
Well, I have 2 books out now that were sold out, and my agent and myself are working on an upcoming book soon that will be coming out. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but we will be working on that in the near future, and hopefully we can go from there. I'm very, like I said, I'm very honored to be on your show. I respect you, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to get into all of this with me, because it's sad, because there's so many people, even men, that are in the mob. You know, people think, oh, they turn FBI, but they don't get the bottom of why they turn to the FBI. If you're a man and you have a child alone and somebody kicks you to the curb, how the hell are you gonna feel? You know, or somebody says, oh, you're no good, you went to the FBI. Everybody has a reason.
Absolutely.
For going to the FBI. It's not because of anything that they're trying to hurt people. Some people are trying to save their ass for being accused of doing things they've never done. And I've never, everybody used to tell me, how would you feel if you had to go before the grand jury? I would love to go before the grand jury. I don't want nobody to think that I'm weak, in no respect. I will tell them whatever they need to hear and tell them why it happened, you see? And again, like I said, only very few people will be sympathetic. But when you hear of something like this, the mafia, it's an embarrassment, because the real men in the mafia would never, ever allow a woman to be penniless and be left out to the curb after all I've done for them. That's
Right.
how I look at it.
You know, the one thing that I've seen when doing a lot of these episodes, you know, involving people in the life and stuff like that, you know, for guys who have testified or cooperated, you know, there's a lot of people that are quick to say, oh, or they're a rat, or were they this, or were they that. But my thing is, until you've been in that person's shoes, you can't judge. You know, you got guys that are working 9 to 5 saying, oh, you don't know what they went through. You don't know what they were facing. You know, until you've been in that situation, you don't know what you would do. You know, everybody can say what they would do, but you don't know until you're actually in it. And somebody working a 9 to 5 job. I'm sorry, you're not qualified to talk on somebody's behalf that was dealing with life and death situations and things such as you were dealing with. Everybody has to make their own decisions. Everybody has to live with it. And whatever decision you made, if you're happy with it and you're content, then that's all that matters, that you are. It doesn't matter what other people think.
Right. Well, the thing too is it's exactly what you said, actually. You know, people don't know unless they're in those shoes. However, again, any man that is gonna, you know, if you call the FBI, you must have a reason. You're trying to save your ass because other people are blaming you for things that you've done that you never maybe even done. Okay.
Right.
If I have something that I've done, I'll tell them to their face and say, listen, I need immunity here. Okay.
Right.
That's why I'll give you this. Yes. But I was strapped to the point. If somebody would have said on the other line, hey, Joey, you know, we know what you did for us. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. I'd say no problem. That would have never happened. Okay. But it's just the way I got to the point where I said, you know, I really need some help. Bang. I'm going to need some help. Bang. Well, you want to keep banging down that phone, you better bang hard for the last time, because I'm not playing its use. You know, I'm not. And, you know, you got to understand, you know, all they have to do is say, hey, we'll take care of you for 6 months, you and your daughter, till you get on your feet. I would have said, no problem. Now, other parts of the family came to me and wanted me to still work. And I said, no, I want out of this. I don't want no part of this. Okay. I had other people from other places, like the DEA's office contacted the FBI to see if I wanted to work with them. No, I don't. Okay. And I know a lot of information, but there's nothing interests me anymore because I don't want no part of that life.
All right. Well, Joey, I can't tell you how glad I am that you were able to come on the show and share your story. Like I said, you've been a fan of mine for quite a while, and I certainly appreciate it. You've been supportive of the show, and I think the world of you, and I'm glad we were able to bring you on here and kind of let you get your story out and share it with the world, much like you did on Larry's show, The Life. And I just can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank you because I'm flattered. And I wish you all the best, and God bless your wife for doing what she's doing. I know she got her degree and everything, and I know you're proud of her. And
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you so much, and you keep in touch with my agent, and she'll give you all that info. Thank you so much. Again, I'm very happy to have been on your show. Thank you.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was Joie Miami. And there is Larry Mazza. That's going to be a tough act.
He's the best. He's the best.
He's a good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm Hollywood Wade. That was Joie Miami. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.